Hi, and welcome to another edition of Spirit of the Valley. We have a unique show today. We're highlighting not only some phenomenal Dartmouth students, but some phenomenal activities and pursuits of theirs that are civic, charitable, unselfish, just marvelous things. And part of the Greek system is really where you're all based, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we can talk about more Nini Meyer, my gosh, I'm sitting here next to old friend Nini. And Nini, your title?
I am here as one of the organizers of the Chad Hero Half Marathon,
Okay.
which this whole effort is tying into.
Good.
And I'm the founder of Positive Tracks.
Okay, and we're going to touch on all of that. We're going to give Chad a good push because
Great.
everybody knows Chad, and more people should. But I'm going to let them all introduce themselves and tell us what their roles are in this system of the fraternities of the world, of Dartmouth anyway, getting incredibly involved with charitable, civic, giving activities, which is something that doesn't always sound collegiate, but in our case, in this case, they're the antithesis of what some of the reputations are of college kids, and I'm thrilled to have them on here. So why don't we start at this end, right here, and you can tell the world.
I'm Luke Sudam, and I am one of the co-directors of communication with PAR.
Hi, I'm Julia Harvey. I'm the executive director of PAR.
Hi, my name is Matthew Liu, and I'm the founder and chairman of PAR, which stands for Philanthropic All-American Rush.
And I'm Ethan Portnoy, and I'm the second co-director of communication of PAR.
So now that you've said PAR 4 times,
Right?
we'll deal with PAR a little bit, and then we'll get on to right to the Chad. But
Sounds good.
PAR, tell me more about what those letters signify.
So PAR stands for Philanthropic All-American Rush. And the All-American part is because PAR is an NGO with a national vision. Do you want us to get straight into the mission of what we do and what we're...
Yeah.
So PAR's vision is to harness the competitive energy and the organizational structure of the Greek system and channel it towards philanthropy. So the problem with philanthropy at Dartmouth is that every Greek house does philanthropy, right? But people tend to see it as a boring chore or as a duty or, it's something you do, but not something you get psyched up about.
Right.
So our vision is to change the meaning of philanthropy and make it something fun, something exciting, and something rewarding. And those are 3 words that I've chosen very specifically, and we should get back to that later in the interview. But we do this during Pledge Term, every year during Pledge Term, and there's a good story about trying to get that started in a very crazy time of the year for the Greek system.
I would say.
And last year we got 18 houses, 14 houses? We got 14
22 houses.
signed up, but 14 active.
Yes.
And this year we have 22 houses signed up. So we've gone up, and
Word of mouth is
we're excited
awesome.
about that. So yeah, we can talk more about PAR after you talk about Chad, I
Okay,
assume. But
I'd want to, because I'd love to hear how far and wide you guys are stretching yourselves and promoting
Sounds good.
yourselves. But who wants to talk? I think I know someone over my left shoulder who would love to talk about the Chad Half. She was on our show last year. I don't know if you remember our show last year, but we had everyone in their superhero costumes, and it was a sight to behold, but it was probably the most fun show I've ever done in terms of...
Yes, I miss my Batgirl outfit. It's been a while. It's soon time to shake the dust off of it, however.
It was wild, but it was all Chad, and so Nini, if you want to just do a little bit of the nitty gritty of Chad, and get people
Absolutely.
in line to register and where and how and all the goodies that Chad has in there.
Yeah, exactly. First, I always tell people CHAD stands for the Children's Hospital at Dartmouth, and their mothership event is the Chad Hero Half, which happens October 21st, a date shift for us.
Right,
it used to be in the summer, had hurricanes, had
Only Irene.
herds of locusts, anyway, hard to engage the student population, and we are on the Dartmouth campus, and it's been one of our dreams to get students involved so they can bring their fun, energized spirit to the race.
Excellent.
Little did we know we were going to encounter PAR, which is our wildest fantasy. But anyway, the Hero Half happens on October 21st. There's a family-friendly walk called course. There's a 5K walk and run. There's a full half marathon. This year we've totally amped the kids zone. We have everything from these like huge ride-on mechanical animals that adults can sit on to, a healthy Heroesville with chalk art. It's maybe more fun than the half itself this year.
You're going to be busy.
Yeah, I know. And, great food scene or sort of, the fall festival foliage thing going on. So part of the Chad Have this year is also a program for ages 23 and under, which these people all are, although they look like very professional adults compared to me,
Which
especially.
they're just young professionals.
Right. Part of the Chad Have is a program called Positive Tracks, which helps kids under the age 23 organize creative and fun fundraising efforts. Everything from, Battle of the Band to an art show to I brought the belt buckle. Is this
Look at that,
where I show
Positive
the
Tracks.
world that some of the teams are here, you want to... They're using their own imaginations to build really cool things to sell or performances. They're detailing cars, they're raking leaves, and then we're also doubling every dollar they raise for Chad. So we're giving them fundraising wings, but we're also having a lot of fun.
Well, the fun is what
Right.
is one of your
That's right.
top
Right.
three.
That's right.
And if fundraising can be fun, and sometimes it isn't, it's totally tedious.
Right.
And people run away from it.
Right.
But you're doing it in a way that means that for the fundraising you're doing, they're going to have fun too. So
Yep.
if you get fun for your money, it doesn't get any better.
Right, exactly. And when we discovered that PAR existed, when we first sort of started talking to the Dartmouth students, we thought, let's look at the athletes for sure. Let's look at other mobilized, people who are already grouped and have some. And we thought about the Greeks, and we met the wonderful IFC president, Tim Brown, who's just fantastic. And he, early in the game, mentioned to me this, PAR thing. And I said, okay, tell me about it. And realized that we have a very aligned mission. Positive Tracks' role is really to boost kids who are doing incredible stuff for the benefit of social good. And so we met these guys, and I will now give the floor to them because we're so excited to be matching their money. We haven't helped them organize at all because they're so
I don't
darn
think
organized themselves.
they don't strike me as needing a lot of help.
And so, I will now that I've explained that, I will now pass the mic over to these guys, and they can explain what they are doing. But first, I just want to say how thrilled we are to be partnering with PAR, to be partnering with Dartmouth College. It's just all
It's a
good.
natural resource.
Yeah.
You've got people right here, how many thousand now at Dartmouth, that can be, in a fun way, useful.
Yeah.
And useful, it sounds like a negative word, but you're being useful in a
Like to be useful.
huge, big picture.
Yeah.
And you're going to spread it around, so I think that's cool. Why don't you do that? Start with
Great.
any stories about it and what kind of mission or vision you've got about where you'll end up.
Sounds good. We should start with actually Tim Brown.
Okay.
So Tim, Julie, and I are in the same class. We're seniors
Okay.
at Dartmouth. And so PAR really got started in our sophomore summer. So sophomores tend to spend their summers at Dartmouth, and that's when Dartmouth Hitchcock has their Proudy.
Right.
And so we saw that, and we noticed a lot of fraternities and sororities got really involved, and it was the competition that got them involved, right? Everyone gets really excited,
Yep.
and all of a sudden it's like a fun thing. Let's go do something great, and let's beat the other house.
There you go.
And so we're looking around, and I was like, Dartmouth kids can do something like this. Like, it's not that bad. And I was like, we should also do this during pledge term. And I got a lot of negative feedback on that one. There were a lot of challenges trying to convince people that was good. People thought I was crazy. Didn't think it would be possible to do it during pledge
Too
term.
busy.
Too busy. People have other priorities. The Greekism traditionally has other priorities during that time. But I said, no, we should go try to do this. And so the funny story that involves Tim is I actually went out and I realized I had to build a different model of fundraising. So a lot of service groups fundraise and then draw the prizes out of the money you raise.
Right.
which for Dartmouth students isn't going to work because they're going to say, oh, so you're just, you're actually getting our money and giving it back to us. That's great. So I said, all right, I need to fundraise on my own and get seed money. And so that's the hard part. You have to go out of the Dartmouth community and try to find people willing to support you. So the first person I hit up was a Dartmouth alumnus
Good.
In New York, and he was very supportive. I explained to him that I had this vision, and I wanted to start an NGO at Dartmouth that runs a fundraising competition during pledge term. The idea is you'd have a competition, people get really excited because people are very competitive,
Yeah.
and in that way you can like jockey among the houses to raise money, and that money would go to somewhere in the community that really needed it. And at the same time, when I was speaking to the alumnus, I was like, look, Dartmouth really needs this, and later on in the interview we can talk more about how Dartmouth needs this more than ever. But at the time, as always, Dartmouth needs a better reputation for the Greek system. And it's not really a spinning job. We do a lot of good stuff as is.
Absolutely.
But this is a great way to show solidarity within the system and show everyone's getting together behind a competition doing this.
Awesome.
He thought it was a great idea. I think that's a testament to the sort of alumni support we have at the college. So he gave me some seed money, and then I went out to my parents and had to convince them to give me a matching donation. I figured, you can do something this big, you should get your parents to support you. So that was
never
tough.
possible.
To tell them like, this will not distract me from my studies. This is good. This is good. So I got their backing, and I also went to my family friends and relatives and raised some seed money. So I raised $14,000 on my own. And that's for the course of like 3 years. It's our seed money. It's something when I graduate, I'll leave to these two young gentlemen here. And so that's how we got started. And where Tim comes in is Tim at the time, he's president of the Interfraternity Council, which is the council that governs all the fraternities. He's that now. Sophomore summer, he was also the president. Okay. And so I pitched it to Tim, and that's how, we've been in partnership this whole time, and he's been very supportive. So we got started in last fall during pledge term.
Yep.
And that was a challenge. We had you have to like really establish the legitimacy from the very get-go. You have to go to each and every meeting and try to sell all the leaders. And we're very excited. So the vision for what PAR is about, I mentioned earlier, PAR is about changing the meanings underlying philanthropy.
Right.
And the reason why that's important is we don't just want people to do it because they have to. We want people to think it's fun and exciting. Because those are meanings that if they attach that to philanthropy, those are meanings they'll take with them outside of Dartmouth.
Absolutely.
That makes them better community leaders. That makes them better alumni, and that's something I've been talking about with the college administration. That makes them stronger alumni. You can't run the school without philanthropy. And that just, you want them to feel happy about doing
Well, it
this.
makes them better people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, they're suddenly in the habit of
Absolutely.
giving without someone twisting their arm. They're thinking about giving without, preemptively. So-
Absolutely. And so PAR has sort of two missions. One is the surface one. And last year we supported WISE.
Great.
And we also supported Tropical Storm Irene relief efforts
Oh,
in
boy.
Vermont. Julie actually went around and she had these pictures of before after. Do you remember that? Like the bridge is gone.
Yeah, that covered bridge.
In
That was
Queens?
That's right.
Yes.
Oh,
That's right.
I mean, that was
so
awful.
heartbreak.
It's my favorite bridge.
And then this year we're supporting the Children's Hospital, and we'll talk a bit about Positive Tracks right after. But that's a surface level mission, and the deeper mission is their vision, which is to change philanthropy, and that's one that will continue, hopefully as a project, will continue so that every year new generations of Dartmouth alumni are coming out with a different understanding of philanthropy.
So do you already all feel like
Oh.
that's part of you now?
Absolutely. I remember when I first got involved in this, it was I was pledging a fraternity, and we were told that we needed to have a philanthropy chair come up and lead the philanthropy efforts from our house. And I said, like, who's going to do this? Nobody wants to do this, and nobody did it. So finally I said, like, I'll do it. I volunteer. And then, like, just as it started rolling, and we were just selling grilled cheeses to all of the students on campus and just doing all of these really fun things that
Yeah.
also just, like, made me feel so much better as a person. Because we were raising all of this money, and I was saying, like, there's no way myself personally in my house is actually going to have, like, a big enough impact on this thing. But we ended up raising over $4,000. And then that, with addition with all of the other Greek houses, just ended up being a huge amount of money. And it turned into something that started as like, oh, why do I have to do this? There's 30 other guys who could do this, to something like, I'm very passionate about this.
Yeah.
And now this year, with our new pledges, I'm like, I want somebody who's going to be as
Good
passionate
for
as
you.
I am.
Because all of us feel that way. When you get into a situation where they need a fundraiser, I'll run the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love philanthropy and I love volunteering and all that kind of thing, but the fundraising is always, so to see people your age being passionate about asking people for money is enormous. and you'll be
And-
able to do it down the
Oh,
road
yeah.
for your schools, for whatever else you,
And I think I was going to say, like, that's actually exactly why we chose pledge term to do this. You can choose any other term, and everyone says you're crazy during pledge term, but it's critical to do it during pledge term because when people come into the Greek system, you didn't change that meaning of philanthropy in their first impression. First impressions matter. And in pledge term, when you first join the Greek system, what are we about? We have a lot of fun. We do a lot of things, but philanthropy has to be a big part of it. And this is the best time when they're forming those initial impressions of what it means to be Greek at Dartmouth to have that. And I think you guys are great examples of that, and you guys joined the
is that
team.
how you
'cause
feel? Is
Yeah,
that same
certainly.
thing?
I
It's
mean,
all,
I would definitely echo everything that
it's way
that Luke
inside
said.
you now.
Yeah, I mean, so the two of us, when our programming chairs initially pitched the idea
Right.
to us over pledge term, we were the two. I had a very similar reaction to what Luke had, and we ultimately, nobody else stepped up, and we talked to each other and said that might be something worthwhile, something worth undertaking. And just as soon as it got off the ground and we kind of gained the momentum, that we ultimately got everyone else in our pledge class. And our goal, which I think we, to a certain extent, achieved, was getting our entire house behind us in this fundraising effort during pledge term last fall. That I think we were able to really carry that momentum using our experience and using what we learned to instill that into the new generation of pledges this term, and kind of bringing the new generation in.
It is
and instilling
contagious.
that value.
If people upcoming see their elders having fun doing something so significant, they're going to get it right away.
Yeah.
They're going to be modeling after you, they're going to be wanting to please you, whatever, call you what it
Yeah.
is. They'll want to go along.
And I think as a testament to that our house, we raised over, like Luke said, we raised over $4,000 over the course of the competition last fall, and we've already raised $3,000 in just a week or two's time, and we have so much time to go and so much fundraising ahead of us.
So
Yep.
this will be split, this will be just for Chad?
This is just for Chad. So last fall, as I mentioned, we raised money for WISE and the Vermont Community Foundation.
Right.
And in total, we raised $18,858. So
Yeah.
we're excited about that.
That's a lot of cleanup.
And this year, we're hoping to exceed that. Our goal is to exceed that.
Why do I
And-
get the feeling you will?
Yeah.
Well, actually, part of the reason why we already have in many ways. So this year, it's been about 3 weeks in the competition. We've raised just over 16,000 as last we checked. So actually, the pace of this competition is really increasing as the competition is going. I remember I was in class, and you're not supposed to do this in class. I checked my email, and Julia sent me an email, and she goes, "We're at 16,000." I'm like, "Oh, that's great." I get back to the dorm at like 4:30. She's like, "We're at 16,500."
Yeah.
So
My
we're
Lord.
raising a lot of money, and the really cool part is that Nini runs an organization called Positive Tracks, and Positive Tracks will double every dollar that PAR raises. So we are effectively at 33,000.
We're at 30, yeah.
That, you
Already
see, that's what- and
$33,000
Incentivizing makes everything.
from- right.
That's
Let's
right.
face
Right,
it, everybody
right,
does better
right,
when they're
right.
motivated
Yeah,
and incentivized.
yeah.
That's right.
And,
Right.
oh my gosh, that is so
And,
exciting.
and our
very
missions
excited.
are the same. I mean, we are also trying to, have people feel that feeling. When you help someone else using your own energy and creativity and brain, it changes who you are. I mean, you guys all just spoke to it. Once you do it once, you're just never the same. And
Well, yeah.
so to catch people when look at these four, they're leaders. I mean,
These are leaders, folks.
They're our next, people running the world. So the fact that they've been
Can you run
marked
this
that
year?
way, yeah.
Make it more fun?
I mean, that's just so cool to me. It's really inspiring because when I was in school at this age, I just didn't. It never kind of even crossed my mind. I hate
Well,
to say.
you had to be forced, schools would do community service projects, and you had
Right.
to go somewhere and do something. And
Right.
it might not be something you had an interest in,
Right.
and you might never again touch that topic. You're going to be into this, I can see. You're going to do this.
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
You're not stopping when you graduate, and that's the important message, I think, is that these kids are going to be out there doing good for the world.
Right.
And whatever jobs you have, this is going to be your second job. I can
Right.
just tell. So
Thank you.
Or first. Or
maybe first.
First.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it could well be. It just, I can feel it very clearly that this is something you're very sincere about.
And
So,
actually, in
yeah.
terms of going back to what you're saying, where back when you were in school, they would force you to do certain
There was
activities
school
as
band,
service. There was
actually.
school
Yeah.
band.
And more than one room.
That's right. And you had to do service and very specific activities that
Oh,
are
yeah.
mandated. So I mentioned earlier that I had raised $14,000 in prizes for over 3 years. So it comes out to be between $4,000 and $5,000 of prizes for each pleasure drum competition. And those reward a variety of things. For the houses that raise the most money, for the individuals who raise the most money, and rewarding smaller houses for most money raised per capita. But the coolest prize, I think, it's our favorite prize, it's the most creative fundraising idea.
Oh.
And so we're encouraging people to think outside of the box and
Good.
really have fun, not just with the competition, but in the actual fundraising itself. Have
Good.
fun with designing something.
Great.
In addition to, going out and raising money from your alumni and also from selling things, do something cool. And these two guys, I was very, very impressed with what they came up with last year, and so I think they can speak to
Yes,
it. So.
please.
Actually, one of our fellow pledge brothers, Ian, came up with this great idea that we should go around to all of the different members of the Hanover community. And the competition was pushed back a little bit later, so it was closer to Halloween time. So we went around and we knocked on all the doors and we told them what we were doing, what our mission was, and kind of how we were the Greek system trying to support the community as a whole. And a lot of people understood that and they liked that. And then we gave them kind of the kicker, which was we called Halloween insurance. We told them that if they had donated to us and to Wise at the time, we would come back after Halloween and help them take down their decorations, clean up any trash or
brilliant.
eggs or anything.
That's brilliant.
And everybody loved it. And we went back and we cleaned up the thing. We ended up not cleaning up that many decorations, but it was just a thought that they saw that we really, if they were going to help us
Well,
to
you
help
were giving
others,
back.
yeah,
It's that simple.
Then they were really on board with it. And so a lot of people
Clever.
really liked that. And it was, I thought, the greatest thing about it was that we would go and we would knock on the doors, and as Ethan was saying before this started, that a lot of the houses would just shut the door on us when we said that we were part of the Greek system.
Yep.
But then once they heard what we were doing and
I-
why we were there,
I would think as long as you had enough time with them,
Yeah.
they would see the
Things
difference in
changed
what their
immediately.
image, the whole
Immediately.
perception of the Greek system changed like that.
yeah, they were just very willing to talk to us, very willing to support us. And they saw that what we were doing was a good thing, and they were very, very willing to jump on board.
So it's just going to get easier all the time
Oh, yeah.
because they're going to be talking to their friends
Exactly.
about it, and someone who might
Exactly.
not have done it
Mhm.
definitely will do it.
Yeah, it's
Another
it's a
time.
great way for us to become involved in this community that our college is in their town, yet we never really communicate. Or
And town gown, as you
Yeah.
know,
Right.
town gown is always an issue in a college town. There's
Yeah.
usually
Right.
friction or division, and this is a fabulous way to bring them together better.
we
than
actually
they-
were able to become pretty good friends with one of the couples. I'll let you
Nice.
talk about this.
We, as part of, when we were going door to door, as Luke mentioned, we had some successes, some failures. Some immediately, as soon as we mentioned that we were not only just Dartmouth students, but we were part of the Greek community, immediately
Slam.
became disinterested. But then we also had, we experienced firsthand that snowball effect that you had mentioned, because when we started to give our pitch and explain our mission, we actually had members of the community that said, "Oh yeah, my friend so and so actually mentioned that to me," and they already became aware that we were trying to
Oh, it
undertake
spreads.
this. But I would say one of the highlights of our entire experience last fall was this was after actually immediately after one of those slamming the
Slammed.
door experiences. And it's an eerie looking house, and we were kind of hesitant whether or not we wanted to
Whoever
knock
you are,
or
he
not.
didn't mean
I
that.
think I was ready to give up at this point.
Yeah, and I
just turned back.
because it was like
Regret
after
it.
3 in a row that it was
Yeah.
just really not, it wasn't going as well as we planned. But we mustered up the strength, and we decided to knock, and we were just confronted by the most genuine, generous human I've ever really met, and just so unexpected, a member of the Dartmouth community. And it was an elderly woman who immediately greeted us and welcomed us inside before we even said a word, because we were dressed up, as Luke had mentioned, it was around Halloween time, so we actually
No,
were
we were
in
in
costumes.
costumes.
And she was just so taken aback that before we could even say something, she ushered us into her living room, called her husband into the living room. The 4 of us sat down. She offered us drinks and appetizers. And we just engaged them in the conversation, explained to them where we were coming from, what we were all about. And we ended up spending probably an hour to 2 hours there. They ended up writing us a very generous check. And it turns out that the husband was a Dartmouth alum and a longtime Hanover resident. And they were just so engaging and they actually extended an invitation to us for us to come back at a later date to eat dinner with them. They invited us over to their house.
See, this works
And-
both ways, because they're seeing a different Dartmouth
Yeah.
face.
Exactly.
And you're
Yeah.
seeing a different Hanover face.
That
Right.
it was really our only
Everybody won.
yeah, and it was our
Yeah.
first like real intimate interaction with like the Hanover community, because
Yeah.
even though we go to Dartmouth, you know, we don't. It's kind of in an insular bubble in terms of who we interact
Yeah.
with.
Right.
That's right.
And
By-
this is why the Chad half is actually such a brilliant event, because it's like the green that day, the Dartmouth green is like a magic
It's
bullet.
just
I mean,
swirling.
there's no reason. It is all members of the community from several
that's-
different towns, all the school systems. Dartmouth, and that's why we wanted Dartmouth students on board so badly. In August we were missing you guys, and it is that exact energy. It's just a beautiful vehicle to help
Well,
others.
I think everyone
on
in Hanover
teams
likes
and-
to see that too,
Yeah.
because they've all
Yeah,
heard
yeah, yeah.
the bad side of the clash, if
right,
if you can call
right,
it that.
Right.
But to see this kind of coming together has to help everybody's image,
Yeah.
as well as obviously the causes that you work so hard for.
That's right.
Especially when you put us all in superhero costumes.
Well, as I
doing
say,
something for the good of
when you
others
see-
above and beyond.
When you see the superhero costumes, it's worth everything. But before we forget, Chad Half Marathon, October 21st, not too far away. They can still get on the site and sign up.
Oh,
and-
absolutely. They can also, sponsor any of these Dartmouth houses. They are on board, and
So that's on the site?
If you don't want to participate, you can go to the teams
Okay.
and find
Okay.
Dartmouth teams on there, other teams on there. There are some incredible Chad teams that doctors and
Yeah.
and patients have put together also that are incredibly compelling and
Well,
heartfelt.
It's a little like the Proudy, where the day of the Proudy, there are also cancer patients at the hospital
right.
Yeah.
walking around with their
Right.
IV poles
That's
right.
to feel.
Right.
And I work in palliative care now up there, and someone said to me the other day, I hope I'm still not here, but if I am, I want to take a walk around the pod.
Oh,
So, I mean, it does reach
Yeah.
people, whether they're
oh yeah.
really able or not.
Right. Right.
You guys are, we're about done. I've gotten all my signals from my boss in there.
Oh, yeah?
You guys are
Yeah.
amazing. I wish we could, maybe you'll come back after
like that.
everything.
Yeah.
I like that, yeah.
And tell us more about how much you ended up, wrap it up, how much you ended up with, obviously how much they have to give you because of it, which is awesome.
We're going to try
Right.
our best to break her bank.
I think
Yeah, yeah.
well, that's actually what she wants.
Right,
Right.
She's
exactly.
as big-hearted as
Exactly.
anyone out there. So because we're low on time, first of all, I want to tell you that I am so impressed with what you guys are up to and
Thank you.
the type of people you obviously are. And I think it can only help what some people out there might have as an image or a perception of the Greeks. And there are some Greeks that give the other Greeks a bad name, and that's true in any society.
Mm-hmm.
But folks, these are the real McCoy. So why don't we plan to do that if we can muster you up
Absolutely,
together again?
absolutely.
Because I would love to hear all of the results of the Chad, the results of what you've had to give them.
Yeah.
And she'll be in breaking food stamps by then.
Yeah.
And give us some more
Absolutely, we'd
about
love
what
to.
you got done, and because time here is so short sometimes. You've got a lot more in you to talk about, I know it. And-
Absolutely. Especially, I know we haven't really given too much of a chance for Julia to talk about how she organized the competition, but the way it really breaks down is as I'm trying to handle the partnership with Positive Tracks and Chad, a lot of the day-to-day handling falls to her, and there's a great story on how she coordinates all these guys as their park coordinators.
And it must be hard for time. I mean, you guys are
Oh,
busy.
gosh, yes.
You are
I
s-
mean,
You know.
I check the Chad website about 50 times a day. I have this
You and me
spreadsheet.
both.
Yeah, I have this spreadsheet open on my computer at all times, and I have the Chad Half website as a bookmark. So I just click it, and I'm always adding the numbers. And just in the past maybe 5 days, we've raised money like $1,000 a day. I think Sunday was $2,000.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's
Oh,
really
it's amazing.
exciting
Yeah.
to see the numbers just continually increasing. So
I
it's just
think-
really heartening.
I hope you out there can feel what we feel in here in terms of the sincerity and the passion for what these kids, I say kids, I'm sorry, students are doing. because they're doing something that a lot of students never used to touch. And some adults, some real grown-ups don't even touch it.
Sure.
So that alone impresses me to death, just because you're doing it from the love of it, which is, it's not a course, it's not a requirement, you're just doing it. And I think the whole community ought to be very proud of you,
Thank you.
and so should you of yourself.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks.
Chad Half and PAAR, PAR,
That's right.
we're going to get these guys back, because clearly we need more of them. I think they have
Yes.
more to say. And we'll get some wrap-up numbers at another time, too, and just see how much your efforts have produced.
Right.
So I can't
Maybe
thank
we'll
you.
put
enough.
them in superhero
I think
suits.
they come back
we'll
looking-
make 'em
they-
come back.
They may look different
Yeah.
on the next
Yeah.
trip. I may even look different on the next trip. They talked me into that
Right.
once, too. But thank you so
Thank you,
much
Jim. Thank
for
you very
doing
much.
this.
Thank
I think for the community to see what the Greek system is up to these days is just such a huge change, and such a positive thing, and a lifelong thing. I think that's another thing, that this is something you'll do forever. I wish I had more time, people, but I hope you got the nuts and bolts of what they're up to and what Chad Half is all about. Most of you know it. Get into it. Go on the website, register or support or do whatever, but even just go over there. I came over there last year not thinking I'd be home that day, and I had 2 little munchkins with me, and we just ran around. They gave them suits, and they just had the best time of their lives. So you don't have to be organized if you don't want to be, but you can go on the green and just have the time of your life, just watching everything that's happening. So I urge you to do that, and I urge you to I will keep in touch with all of you, as I try to do, when these young people will be back, because I think they need to come back, and I personally want them to come back,
Thank you, Jim.
because
Thank you
you've
very much.
made a very good impression. So thank you all, and if you can top this show, you're doing something pretty well. We'll see you next time, and in the meantime, remember Chad on October 21.